welcome to episode 57 of my Warhammer Conquest review series. This week we'll be reviewing issue 57 in a move that surprises nobody. No plastic toy soldiers this issue. I showed you the back, how could I? Instead we have 2 pots of paint which are worth about $2.75 each. Possibly $2.50. We have got a base of Thousand Suns Blue, which has a nice kind of deep grey colour. Well, deep greyish blue. Not too deep, but reasonably firm. I mean, we're not talking anything like ultramarine blue, where it's a rich thing, but it's kind of an ultramarine turquoise, which is quite nice. But it's it's kind of got a greyness to it. But that's because it is a base and it's supposed to be built up to a light colour with colours like, for example, Temple Guard Blue, which we see is a much lighter colours. It'll be interesting to see what they want us to do with this and where they want us to put this. Sounds a bit want to say it like that. On the models later, which hopefully it will be the back of the magazine will tell us what they supply these paints for. It does mean that I'm just looking to see if there's like a piece of scenery or anything that mitigates. No. No battle mats or anything. Means this is another issue where you're not making your money back on the product alone. As I always say whenever I say that, you are getting the magazine, and whilst I personally wouldn't necessarily say the magazine's worth $7.99, it's got to be worth a good couple of quid. When you add it to this, you're probably making about your money's worth, particularly considering the cost that it takes to print and produce these glossy magazines. White Dwarf is what, £5-6 now. Admittedly, it's a lot thicker. Sometimes you get free stuff with it, but most of the time it stands by itself. This one, it's $7.99 in total. The magazine certainly not worth $7.99 by itself, but once you add these, you're not doing too badly. It's not a terrible thing. Add to that, one thing White Dwarf never does is have rarely does to my knowledge, is have the actual base rules to things in it. It has extras and odds and sods that you can do, but you have to buy the main books for the base rules, whereas Conquest does have base rules in it. And if you buy it, eventually you will have the whole rule set. As one of the commentators, one of the commenters, pointed out one of the previous magazines, there is becoming a certain level of divergence between what's coming out in Conquest, rules-wise, and some of the rules available, but that's because Conquest rules are the base rule set. And then there's a lot of new books and new magazines and things that add rules to it or give you alternative rules. So, the rules on this are still perfectly usable, but if you're buying Conquest and you've got an army, you take it to a club, you might find that what you've been playing here doesn't necessarily resemble exactly what they're playing in the clubs, but that's okay. Any reasonable player will be happy to sort of strip back down to base core rules, or help you learn the rules that the club's using, if the club's using loads of extras, loads of bits and pieces, loads of adaptations to it. The FAQs and the updates as well will help. They're available on Games Workshops website, so a lot of the differences and a lot of the bits where they've tweaked it are available from GW. And it's worth noting they do tweak the rules, and they will keep tweaking the rules. For this issue, GW stated this edition of the rules, GW have stated they're going to constantly tweak it to keep it balanced. Previously, some people are complaining about that, but previously when they brought out rules, they said they were going to keep it solid and not change it, and everyone complained that their particular rule set was broken, or their particular rule set wasn't powerful enough, or somebody else was too powerful. And GW went, oh, well, you'll have to wait for the next edition. We'll try and balance it then. And people didn't like that. So now GW have gone, okay, we're going to balance it as we go. We're going to look at the tournaments. We're going to look at the stuff, and we're going to try and make sure that the game stays roughly playable. And people don't like that either. So, you can't win. You can't win either way if you're a big company like GW. If they brought out a perfect system, people will complain because they didn't update it. But that little monologue, there you go, aside, still 2 perfectly nice paints. They're going to fit in my collection quite nicely. And a nice magazine which I'm looking forward to reading. This one is covering the Raven Guard, the Legions of Zench, and painting plasma effects. Those will probably be used for plasma effects. You can create some really nice plasma effects with those two colours. GW have gone for plasma being blue. Some people like plasma to be green, some people like plasma to be red. In actual fact, the term plasma merely refers to superheated ionized gas, and it can be almost any colour depending on the gas. If you're wondering what that is, that's what the sun is. The sun is a superheated ionized gas. Plasma beams are effectively little beams of sun, if you will, there. And not if you use sunlight, I mean the actual gas of the sun, which is kind of similar to a multi-melter, which also fires superheated stuff. So in theory, because you can get almost any gas and you can superheat and electrically charge it, which is what ionizing means. You can have plasma be any color depending on the gas you use. Same as fireworks go any color depending on what chemicals they put in there. If you were to create a copper-based gas, you might get a different color from if you create an oxygen-based gas. There's always there was an interesting, I don't know if you guys watched Babylon 5. There's an interesting episode of Babylon 5 which is a sci-fi program. They had fighters, space fighters fighting outside their space station, and one of the people watching said they couldn't tell which one was which, and the other one said when there's a little yellow explosion, it's Earth ships because they're full of oxygen. The gas that the aliens use when you see a little green explosion, that's one of their ships blowing up because they breathe a different atmosphere to us. So it's all very interesting sciencey stuff. But as with most things, you can find an explanation for painting whatever colour you want. Red, blue, yellow, white, pretty much any colour you fancy. Basically, gas that the temperature of the sun is going to melt pretty much anything you put in front of it, except incredibly hot things. Except incredibly tough things. Right, so here we go. Contents page as always. Ian, our spiritual leech, as always. All the information on Hatchet miniatures. If you've got any problems with these, they have actually got a customer service. And I've never pointed out before, they actually have got customer service numbers before for the UK and Republic of Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. So I assume South Africa must be getting this at some point. They get other Hatchet miniatures. And it also points out back issues. Visit our online shop at www.hatchetpartworks.com to purchase specials and any back issues you may have missed to ensure you have a complete collection. Issues will be priced as normal and £1.99 P&P or free P&P for issues over £25. That's not me advertising Hatchet because I have no idea what they're like as a company. I've only encountered them with this. My local corner shop's been reliable. I've heard other stories from other places that they haven't been. So I don't know whether or not really they're a good or bad company. You'd have to decide that for yourself. But if you've been collecting these and you've missed one and you can't get it through your corner shop, apparently you can contact them directly and try and get back orders. How good they are, how reliable they are, I have no idea. But apparently it's a UK-based company, or at least they have an office in the UK. Which is, no, it doesn't say, it just says printed in the UK. So there's that. I don't really read the side of this I've never really read the side of this previously, but it is interesting. I mean, it's telling us that the ubiquitous Ian that we always see on the front there is a man called Ian Huxley and is the Partworks managing editor. Whatever that means, but this is printed by Partworks on behalf of Games Workshops, so it's got a bunch of bits and pieces here, which is all cool. Always worth reading it. If you've got problems, you can usually find the answers somewhere in the small print. But page 1, straight into Raven Guard. Raven Guard are one of the weirder and cooler Marine chapters. Most of the original chapters sort of rank amongst the cooler. I often say, this chapter is one of the cooler chapters. There are hundreds of chapters, so I could. There are 30 chapters that are instantly cool that I can think of off the top of my head. For certain reasons. the Astral Claws, who became the what the hell did they call? The Astral Claws are one who became the, I want to say the Tarn of Badab, but I don't mean the Tarn of Badab. See, brain. The Astral Claws are one of the most famous ones to turn against the Emperor, to become the Red Corsairs. There you go. The Astral Claws became the Red Corsairs at some point. Because I think that's right. But yeah, the Red Corsairs are one of the only sort of major chapters to completely turn, and they dragged a couple of other chapters with them, and they went to Chaos well after the obviously because of the successor chapter, well after the initial Horus Heresy. So they're quite cool. You've got the Marines Malevolent, who are cool just because, who are quite cool just because they're a bunch of complete assholes. They appear in the Salamander novel, and they are kind of jerks. They kind of think, well, we're saving everybody, so whatever we do is justified because it's what saves everybody. And they're massively under-provisioned and massively under-supported. So they mostly go around nicking things. They literally try and rob the Salamanders of their stuff, which doesn't work out for them, not surprisingly. You got the Crimson Fists, who are another successor chapter, fought down to, got almost entirely wiped out and fought down to the last few men, and they're pretty amazing. The Shadow Wolves, a chapter I play, got wiped out and literally, they say fought to the last man standing. As a bunch of Black Templars were leaving because they had a mission that prioritized, they literally watched the last Shadow Wolf just holding the banner and getting ripped apart by Tyranids, and apparently it was really amazing. I think it was Tyranids. There are hundreds of really cool Marines. Some are particularly cool, or cooler than others for various reasons, and most of them have their own things. And this one goes into the Raven Guard, and they are one of the original 22 chapters, legions, created by the Emperor. Corvus Corax is their Primarch, and they're also one of the most edgelordy ones. A lot of the original chapters are a little more edgelordy because, well, they were created in the 80s when being an edgelord was a new thing. Everyone was called Raven Dark and things like that. Hence Corvus Corax, which basically means crow, or raven. You've got Lion L. Johnson is the name of a poet called Lionel Johnson. There's all kinds of weird things in there. The poet, in case you didn't know that bit of Dark Angels trivia, there's a poem called The Dark Angel by a poet called Lionel Johnson, and that inspired the Dark Angel Marine chapter led by Lion L. Johnson. Random pointless bit of of trivia there. These guys are kind of gother than goth. Unlike some of the other chapters that have a bit of black, these guys are completely black. They have a white bird as their chapter symbol, which is a crow. Other than that, they mostly follow sort of chapter standard codex stuff, but they have their own differences. They also have massive great mutants because their gene seed was disrupted by Alfarius. They had some mutation issues anyway, and they got what effectively were almost proto-Primarises, improved and pure genetic Marines, where they were less likely to have problems, not because they were pretty or anything like that. And they were about to make them when to help get the Raven Guard back into the fight after they lost, to help the Raven Guard recoup their numbers, because they weren't one of the biggest chapters to begin with. They were one of the later ones found, and they lost a hell of a lot of troops at the Istvan drop site massacre. Terra released this stuff, which there are some rumors might have actually been the Emperor's next step in Marines, or might have been some of Call's initial work in improving the Marines. No one's quite sure, but Alfarius intercepted it, and not even intercepted it. He did a sort of a stealth mission, which is what the Alpha Legion do, and managed to corrupt it so that, yes, they got a load of Marines, but the rate of mutation was higher and the mutations were worse. This didn't go entirely to the Alpha Legion's plans, because what it created were these giant combat monster creatures that still have mostly the intelligence of the Marine but are massively mutated. So that's an interesting thing. They're all sort of misunderstood. And Corax is another Primarch that's nobody knows quite where he is. He didn't actually die. He just sort of disappeared off to do his thing. The Raven Guard are very much about kind of secretive hit and run raids and things like that. They're very much like, yeah, they're very much like you don't see them coming. So they are kind of the opposite of Alpha Legion, and they have a big thing against the Alpha Legion because of the aforementioned, you know, polluting of the gene seed, or sabotage. That's the word I'm looking for. I hate using words like pure and polluted. Yeah. But yeah, it's worth noting, when someone says something's pure, that doesn't mean good. Something can be pure shite. It says, you know, just give you a bit of a blip here. The Raven Guard are unusual among Space Marines, and they prefer the art of stealth to direct tactics in most other chapters. They rarely undertake in front of assault, favoured by their brothers, instead striking from their shadows and taking apart their enemies piece by piece. Then it goes on, since the earliest days of service of their Emperor, the Raven Guard have stood apart from their brothers, where other legions were masters of conquest and open warfare. Raven Guard were entrusted with hunting the Emperor's enemies from the shadows, venturing out beyond the light of the Imperium to undertake their missions. So right there you can see they're much... Sorry, a bit too much caffeine today. They're much like Alpha Legion in some respects, but they're still their own unique thing. You'll notice if you look at the Legion that there isn't any exact opposites or exact sames. Like the Space Wolves are kind of the most animalistic Imperial Marines, and they kind of reflect off of the World Eaters, but they're still very different. And yeah, there is kind of equivalents and opposites for each of the Loyalist Marine chapters in the Heretic Marine chapters, and vice versa. But they're all also quite unique, which is pretty impressive. I mean, there's 20 odd chapters there, so to have each chapter be something unique and yet have enough of a resemblance for you to have kind of grudge matches against them, that's pretty cool. And in some cases they've gone for the similar one to be the grudge match. In some cases, like Space Wolves, they've gone for the opposite ones. You have Space Wolves versus Thousand Suns. Raven Guard very much don't like Alpha Legion. Whilst Alpha Legion are spies, Raven Guard hunt those spies from the shadows. It's quite nifty. And of course there is some crossover there. Every Marine chapter is kind of meant to be capable of doing everything it needs to do. They're meant to be self-contained, so the Raven Guard can do frontal assaults, they just don't like to. Space Wolves can do stealth missions, they just rather rip your face off rip your face off face to face, kind of. No pun intended. Yeah. He also notes here that the legacy of their Primarch, Corvus Corax, still hangs over the Raven Guard. In addition to his preference for stealth and strategy, Corax was always a liberator, his only goal to free the human race from tyrants and cruel dictators. So again, whilst they're misunderstood, they're one of the nice ones. You can see you know, as with most of the chapters, we've had a lot of time to build up story around these guys. It's got quite a good amount of depth. And you can also see kind of the edgelordiness. You know, they're good guys, really. They just fight from the stealth. They're the most humane, but they're monsters. You know, so, you know, it's all pretty cool. Some people prefer a bit more nitty-gritty and a bit less dramatic. Frankly, I think they're fantastic. I would totally build a Raven Guard army if I hadn't already fallen in love with Space Wolves. I am a furry all the way. Yiff yiff. If you don't know what yiff yiff means or furries mean, do not look it up on the internet. Just don't. It's got some of the pictures here, and again you can see the different colour armour trim denotes the different companies, and again the same, the arrow for battle line, the cross for close support, the triangle for fire support, and the Maltese cross style thing for veterans, which is the same as you'll find on the Ultramarines. So they are very much their own chapter, but they do adhere, at least in part, to the Codex, which is one of the reasons why they appear alongside the Iron Fists, the Imperial Fists, the Iron Fists, the Imperial Fists, and the Iron Hands, and the Ultramarines in the main Space Marine / Ultramarine book, depending on what they're calling it in any given iteration. You usually get one Space Marine book, and that has the majority of them, and then you get a few of the different ones that are different enough to warrant in their own book. You know, you'll get a Black Templars book, you'll get a Space Wolves book, and a Dark Angels and a Blood Angels book, because they might have enough difference to warrant their own codex. But I mean, even if you play one of those chapters, as do I, it's still very much worth getting the basic Space Marine codex, because there's a lot of fluff in it, and there's a lot of stuff in it that isn't available to the specialist chapters that is available to General Marines. So, you know, and it's worth noting, there is also the assumption that if it's different, it's better. That really isn't the case. Some of the rules make them better, some of the rules don't. Honestly, a lot of it, even amongst the rules, a lot of it is down to suiting your fighting style. There are number crunching things where you can look at it and go, well, the maths just dictates that I can put out more firepower this way, I can kill more things this way. And that's unfortunate, because, you know, it'd be nice to have it if it were perfectly balanced, but with this many armies and giving us this much difference and this much uniqueness, which is what we want from GW, is where they really excel and beat every other gaming thing, you know, every other kind of game thing, in that you can really customize everything to what you want, rather than having this particular guide and this particular guide and then having to make a combination of those guys. You can really get uniqueness. You know, with all that uniqueness comes the problem that balance is more difficult. That, and as GW often say, they build the game for playing against mates at home, not for massive tournaments, even though they will try and help with those. But we've got that. We've got Legacy of Secrecy, which is another sort of timeline style thing. You start off with the battle at midpoint, then the betrayal at Zambique, the Amalgamation Schism, the Forlex Rescue, all a bunch of little stories and little no, I can't think of the word. Little things that happened in the Raven Guard history. Yeah, each one being an incident, that's the word. Little incidents of their own thing that affected the Raven Guard. Then we're moving on to the Stern Guard Veterans. This is a troop type available to most General and Codex compliant Marine chapters. There were two types, Vanguard Veterans and Stern Guard Veterans. The Vanguard are at the back, the Stern Guard are at the front. That's an older military thing. These veterans are equipped and get specific special rules to make them cooler. This is one of the things that allow the basic Marines to really be possibly the most adaptable Marines. But if you've got a style of play that works for one of the different chapters, by all means pick the different chapters. I know some people that do brilliantly with Dark Angels. I know some people do brilliantly with Space Wolves. And I'm sure some people do brilliantly with other things. But we go basically through the Stern Guard Veterans. Stern Guard Veterans are expert warriors who have served their chapter for many years, gaining experience in the battle lines. After ascending to the first company, they are asked to provide fire support to their chapter. They act as the first company's closest equivalent to battle line and fire support troops, targeting the enemy with heavy weapons, providing base fire for their bolters, under which the Terminators and Vanguard Veterans can advance. Sorry, I think it's the other way around. Vanguard are front and Stern Guard are back, whichever. The Vanguard Veterans are the specialists. The Stern Guard, like I say, they're equivalent to battle. Like I said here, they're equivalent to battle line, but they're better equipped than your basic Marine, and they're another one of the things which allows you to do it. As it says here, the Stern Guard Veterans are basically elite battle Marines, elites or tactical Marines, so they do get more stuff and they do get more bits and pieces. Stern Guard employed wherever the battle line is weakest, facing down their enemies with a natural, calm, and accurate burst of bolter fire. They are also often assembled and equipped to deal with particularly important missions, such as crippling an attack wave of enemies. So again, yeah, basically they're sort of jacked up tactical Marines, given extra stuff, given extra things, and given some extra rules. As members of the first company, Stern Guard could draw their weapons from the chapter's armory. They may opt to wield flamers, missile launchers, and other heavy weapons, while their sergeant has access to a variety of powerful melee weapons. So yeah, basically tactical Marines with a few extra rules and a few extra bells and whistles. If what you need is a super tactical unit, then Stern Guard are very much the way to go. You can see here are some of the models. They're a little more ornate and a little more cool than standard Marines. It's, you know, from what I understand, not having played them myself, Stern Guard is like having a squad of tactical sergeants and then an extra sergeant that's a bit cooler. But they're certainly something that's worth taking and worth considering for particular problem solving. Next, we've got Demons of Nurgle. Kugarth, or Kugarth, the Plague Father. It's always the Plague Father, never the Plague Cousin or the Plague Niece. And if you met my niece and the amount of snot she does, you'd certainly know about the Plague Niece. Very aggressive. The Great Unclean One, of incredible bulk and terrible power, Kugarth Plague Father stalks the galaxy searching for new contagions and diseases with which to brew the ultimate plague. Kugarth was once a mere Nurgling balancing on the shoulder of his master, Nurgle. Just as the plague god was brewing his most deadly toxin, Kugarth tumbled from his perch and fell into the depths of the cauldron. To Nurgle's surprise, Kugarth did not die but began to drink the foul liquid, swelling in power. He greedily sucked down the contents of the cauldron of poxes, growing quickly to a great unclean one. Rather than being upset at the loss of his concoction, Nurgle chuckled at his servant, for he had given form to the great diseases he had spent an age brewing. There's a lot of really cool stories like that. You know, the guy comes from a Nurgling to a great unclean one, so he's got a different perspective. He's unique as opposed to just I made a great unclean one. It goes about here. How he basically has a laboratory and he brews things and makes more diseases. So that's pretty cool. I won't go through all of it, you can read it yourself. And then we're on to Tzeentch, the opposite of Nurgle, kind of. It's worth noting, each of the Chaos Gods has sort of similarities to the other Chaos Gods, and even the opposite ones have some crossover. Nurgle is about rotting and falling apart. He's more supposed, which is about sort of a straight path to decline, whereas Tzeentch is about continuous change. But even with Nurgle, you know, you change from being a healthy person to a part of gloop. That is change. And change could kind of be considered a disease. It's more about emotions, the emotions they inspire, than the things themselves. But really, you know, the warp is kind of like a sea. You can't ever have anything be completely separate, and once a bit of the sea's mixed into another bit of the sea, even if you try and pull the changey bits back out where they've merged with the Nurgly bit, you know, the Tzeentchy bits back out where they've merged with the Nurgly bits, they'll still be tainted both ways. So it's kind of cool that way. Tzeentch is possibly my personal favourite Chaos God. He's the god of magic and change. He's known by many names across the galaxy, among them Weaver of Destinies, the Great Conspirator, and the Architect of Fate. He listens to the hopes and dreams of every sentient being from every planet in order to further his own schemes. He goes on to explain who Tzeentch is, what Tzeentch is. He's basically, he's the guy that has plans within plans within plans within plans, which also makes him a master tactician, which again, that's a point where he crosses over, for example, with Khorne being the god of war. He's also the god of strategies and tactics. Tzeentch being the god of change and the god of scheming and the god of intellect is also a god of strategies and tactics. Each god kind of crosses over to every other god. Khorne enjoys battle, and Tzeentch finds joy in change. Nurgle finds joy in rot, hence they all cross over to Slaanesh. Slaanesh is decadent and will be bloated and will become corpulent and things like that. He crosses over with Nurgle. He loves change because he loves new experiences, so he crosses over with Tzeentch. It's all one massive kind of blur of weird, eternal, dark power demon sex or whatever. It goes on about the Pyroclastic Conclave. The Pyroclastic Conclave is a conflagration legion led by the exalted Lord of Change, Shim Drilex Khazar. Is one of many demon legions sent to the Stygius sector in the aftermath of the Great Rift. As it entered battle with the Imperial defenders during the siege of Mordian, it was composed of 9 different hosts. So there's a bit about demon legions, which are yet another force in 40k. not to be used with the Chaos Space Marines, whilst both of them will work together, and the Chaos Space Marines have access to demons, and the demons can, in theory, have access to Chaos Space Marines. They're two separate and distinct powers. The Chaos Space Marines, the Chaos Cultists and that, these are the puppets of Chaos, whereas the demons are the Chaos's direct own forces. Also puppets of Chaos in a way, but also puppet masters. So, again, everything is everything and nothing is ever really understandable. But it goes through all the different legions there. Here we have a picture of Tzeentch. This is a two-headed bird. Most of them are one-headed, but it's not locked up. I believe this is Kairos Fate Weaver. Yeah, Kairos Fate Weaver, Great Demon of Tzeentch. He's one of Tzeentch's favourite demons, and one of these most intelligent and most manipulative. He's called Fate Weaver because he weaves centuries-long plans, manipulating and tweaking threads to get what he wants. It's worth noting that, you sit and go, oh, well, Tzeentch weaves every plan and listens to every dream and tweaks every fate to get what he wants, and it's all part of his plan. It is and it isn't. It's all part of his plan, but his plan changes when things change. So, he adapts the plan, he knows possibilities, but the idea that Tzeentch always wins is A, not true, because Ornogel or Sunish or Khorne is not true, because they're not always as good as they try to be. They are massive creatures of unfathomable intellect, but that doesn't mean they're perfect. They do make mistakes, they do make cock-ups, humans do win. And particularly with Tzeentch, the other thing is he doesn't always want to win. Always winning would be stagnation, and Tzeentch wants to lose as well. One of the theories is that at the end of the Great Battle, Tzeentch is going to die, because that'll be the only change he hasn't done. The theory is that Magnus is going to turn out to be loyal, kill Tzeentch, ascend to become the god of change himself. Tzeentch will die, the Emperor will be reborn and ascend, and there'll be Magnus, the god of change, who's actually kindly disposed towards mankind, and the Emperor, the god of mankind, as the first two gods of a new Chaos Order, or something like that. That's one theory. That's one of my personal favourites. It might be true, might not. Only GW know, and even then, the ones that did know have left, and the ones that are doing it now might not be the ones at the end of it, so they don't really know either. Here we've got some cool demons. You've got a Flamer of Tzeentch, basically a giant fungus thing that jumps around. You've got the Screamers of Tzeentch, which are otherwise known as the Floating... The Screamers of Tzeentch are kind of like warp sharks, but when they're tamed and dragged into the real world, they're what floating discs of Tzeentch, which champions ride, are made out of. So they're kind of sort of tamed and warped. You've got Brimstone Horrors, Blue Horrors and Pink Horrors. One of my favourite. I'm not sure of the specifics now. I think they brought back the ecstatic duplication. They got rid of it for a while, but it used to be a thing where you bought a squad of, or you could field Blue Horrors as separate units, and Brimstone Horrors are actually a new thing. But the way it worked was, if you kill a Pink Horror, it splits in half and becomes a Blue Horror. So the unit got bigger before you killed it. Each pink horror had 2 wounds. When it died, it split into a 1 wound creature, which was very cool. But for those people like myself who played an army of Tzeentch, it was also very expensive, because it meant for every unit you had to have effective. For a 10-man unit of horrors, you had to have a 20-man. For a 10-man unit of pink horrors, you had to have a 20-man unit of blue horrors. And if you wanted 2 units of pink horrors, and they were the base troops of Tzeentch, you ended up having to have twice as many guys to field the same points of army. It was awesome, but it was bloody expensive. I believe they work here. I believe they brought that back in. I believe pink horrors divide up to blue horrors, and blue horrors divide up to brimstone horrors. I'm not sure exactly how the rules work. I haven't played the Chaos thing. It's one of the guys I'm thinking of looking into once this run is finished and I've got all my stuff, and maybe I've got a better job that pays better money, which I have just started a better job that pays better money, but I think I'll wait for this to finish before I start collecting a separate army. I have fields of blue plastic. Scourge of the Stars. We've got the next issue, Scourge of the Stars here, which is next section, which is a nice little story bit, which is going to lead into that bit. And there's more stuff here about Yeah, the War for the Scourge Stars. Oh, these are the Scourge systems. The Scourge Stars are right at the edge of the fringe of the galaxy. Demonic Duel. The War for the Scourge Stars began to seriously test the powers of all four Chaos Gods, diverting their attention from the most important business of all, conquer the galaxy. Yeah, eventually the greatest of demons met in a titanic battle, blah, blah, blah. So that's pretty cool. The Scourge Stars are like really effed up and ghost stars, so read that story. It's another sort of random bit for the Imperium. Here you go. And here's the painting guide. They're showing you how to use these paints. They're starting with... Yep. Starting with the basic Thousand Suns blue, hitting it with the Temple Guard blue afterwards, and then they've hit it with a lighter blue there, which... Each time they're showing the blue and the Temple Guard's blue there. Sorry, the page came out. These are your thermic plasma conduits you got a few weeks ago. And this is just adding stuff to the things you've got. If you look at this stuff's done with the two paints, but on the first page you've got a Marine, and you can see there's the end of what they've done, and the Marine's a little brighter. If you hit it with a sort of sky blue colour, or just mix a bit of white with the Temple Guard, and just do a tiny bit over there, you'll get that effect, which is pretty cool. And again, they're showing dry brushing. You can get the effect with dry brushing as well. It will overlap, but that overlap kind of looks like a glow on the edge, so you can leave it, or you can just use the highlighting paint to redo the edges and work with what you've done. It's up to you guys what you do, really. So yeah, it's also showing painting plasma on the Hemotrap reactor and various bits there. And finally, painting plasma on the thermic regulators. Again, you don't have to paint them plasma. You can paint them any colour you want, and plasma, again, itself can be any colour you want. So, you know, enjoy yourself, have fun. Got a nice quick prelude story, Scorched Earth, which is going to lead us into this week's mission. This week's mission being, where are we? Yep, no, that's it. Being Plasma Harvest. It's falling apart. In case anybody's new to this, the magazine's supposed to fall apart. The idea is that you can separate each bit, and you know, you can put the rules bits in the rules folder, the background bits in the background folder, have it organised however you want. They are not properly sealed at the back, nor are they meant to be. So, you know, don't worry, this is falling apart. It's meant to do that. Got a nice mission here, using two of the existing battle mats, Warzone 2 and Warzone 3 mat, which are the sort of the industrial sector and the Imperial ruins / building sector. The armies you're getting are 3 command points, which is reasonably good. Lord of Contagion, 2 squads of 5 Plague Marines, so quite a good solid bunch there. Fetid Bloat Drone, 10 Cultists and 12 Poxwalkers. So you're going to fill up the table quite nicely with that one. The Space Marines? Went a bit funky there. The Space Marines. Again, 3 command points. You have a Captain in Gravis Armour, 2 squads of 5 Intercessors, which we got last week. The Land Speeder, 3 Hellblasters and 3 Aggressors. So you've got the Speeder versus the Fed Blight Drone. Be aware, both of those units can be quite delicate and taken down if you're not careful. So that should be fun, fast moving, it should swing quite well. Here on the back, we have got what's coming next. It is the Space Marine Attack Bike. Keep an eye on next week's episode, because that's another one that I'm not going to use because I'm going pure Primaris. So that will be given away. End of this episode, I'll be giving away these 3 bikes. Sadly, they'll be given away in different episodes, but, you know, comment on both, you might win them both. Then after that, we have got some more Primaris reinforcements. So with Space Marines for the next couple of weeks, sorry, Death Card players. Got another Interceptor, which should give us the total, the total of Interceptors that it promised, finishing that last squad off. And we've got 2 Intercessors and 2 Hellblasters, which again should round up, I think should round up our squads fully. I'm not entirely sure how many they intended to have in total, but some more Marine reinforcements there. Next week's episode, Space Marine Attack Bike, Discover the Tau Empire. The Tau are one of the more interesting ones. There was a lot of hate for Tau when they first came out because the aesthetic was very different. GW were looking to capitalise on the popularity of manga, So they brought out something which is a very popular manga style, very sort of Japanese stylism. Made them grey aliens, but again, focused them on very much sort of Japanese styles and kind of aesthetic, kind of Japanese religious aesthetics and that. I think they're very cool. I don't play them myself. There is a lot of good-natured hate, good-natured sort of ribbing and I hate Tau kind of thing going on there. There are a few people that take it too far, so if you play a Tau player, don't be a jerk to him. And in one of the recent editions, the Tau gun lines became a very devastating thing. It was very difficult to get near them, and people kind of disliked them for that. But that's the same with anyone dislikes the top dog. If someone can do something and beat you and it seems easy and frustrating to you, you're going to dislike them. And again, that's not the fault of the players. So if you're playing a Tau player, don't be a jerk to the player. But in general, I think they're good. They fit well into the 40k universe. They're very alien. They're very different to the other races, and they've got something unique, which I quite like. Also, they're nowhere near... I've never found them as difficult or frustrating as some people did, even in the older editions. But then again, I did play... Most of the times I played against Tau was in Apocalypse, where I had space swords, they had a gun, and we literally just went forward in a ton of vehicles and flyers and dropped blood claws all over them. They shot a lot of us, but we ate a lot of them. It was great fun. So yeah. Twitchy tonight, guys. Sorry. Also, you've got the history of the Raven Guard. So you've got more stuff in the background. You've got a quick bit here, and they'll be going into more detail, so you can add that together. Again, that's why these things come apart, so you can add it all together. So some more interesting stuff there. As I said, the Raven Guard are one of the guys that I like. Issue 59, which is in 2 weeks' time. Ultramarine reinforcements, which obviously we can see there. There'll be some more bump about the Ultramarines in there. Learn more about the Grey Knights. We covered a brief bit there, and I went on a bit of a random discussion about Grey Knights, but they are interesting. Again, they're very edgelordy, but a lot of 40k is kind of what... If you don't know what I mean by edgelordy is when your name is Gabriel Dark or Eric Draven, and you suffered and nobody understands you, and you're so cool, and you fight with jewel silver katanas and things like that. But this was designed as a game aimed at 14-year-olds, and if you don't like the fact that it has some cheese in it, there are other games that are less cheesy, but frankly, it also has a lot of cool stuff in it. So you can avoid the cheese, or like me, you can embrace it. It is a fun part of the theme. I disliked when they tried to make it too cool for school and too kind of grim, dark and realistic. I think, if you're playing a fantasy game, there should be at least some silliness in there. And then finally, explore the Maelstrom. The Maelstrom is another warp rift. Originally you had the Eye of Terror and the Maelstrom. Now you've got the big rift between that goes between the two, but the Eye of Terror is still sort of like a focal point, and the Maelstrom is another sort of focal point. The Wolf Spears, which are the only current successor chapter of the Space Wolves, are on guard permanently at the Maelstrom. So that's interesting. I'm hoping they'll be mentioned in a couple of weeks. Right. I'm just going to pause it for a second while I get the names of last week's competition winner. If you're not aware, somebody won these a couple of weeks ago. I have poked the gentleman in question. He has not responded. Sorry, dude. You've lost your chance. My assumption is just that either these aren't any use to him, or he's not collecting that particular army, or something like that. So I'm going to just pause it while I get the name off of my phone, which is what I record this on, and then we'll see who's won these. And I'm back, guys. After a quick look at the names and a quick dice roll, this week's winner is somebody called 15-4. I'm assuming that you'll have another name at some point. But, Mr. 15-4, you have won 3 bikers. I will leave a message on your comment in last week's video, telling you where giving you an email address to send giving you an email address. The email address is wargamerDadUK@gmail.com. If you just want to send me an address. And if you let me know where you want these sent to, I will post them as soon as I get a chance. To anybody who's won prizes before, if it's taken a while sorry about that. I don't always get to post them the next day or even the same week as the video because I'm often busy doing things. I've got 3 kids and work and a wife and all kinds of crap. And I'm trying also to get games in. So, you know, I post it when I can. But, you know, you won stuff for free. So, you know, it's all good. Okay, congratulations 15-4 on winning the bikes. And I will send them to you as soon as I get an address and so on and so forth. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I will see you again next week where we will look at issue 58. Bye-bye. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Not sure why, but I am. So if you like it, see me there, and please tell your friends. Thanks very much. Bye.